picks up the new scoreboard.
Do you love what we've done with the place? That's the first question.
Swing and a miss on a changeup down.
It is a changeup, and it is ridiculous.
You were advanced scouting us?
Yeah.
Turns, throws, got it, what a play! Oh, man!
This is Have a Seat with Jason Benetti and Dan Dickerson.
Tarik Skubal, welcome.
Yes, thanks for having me.
Really appreciate coming here.
Of course.
So throughout the next, 30, 40 minutes, we're just going to kind of go through your history and how you got to where you are, and get you, insight into all the things that go into being a good pitcher and how far you've come in a few years. I want to start with, you went 7 innings, 91 pitches yesterday. How does the starting pitcher feel day after? How do you feel day after a start?
I'm tired. I feel like you can't sleep enough after you pitch, especially me. Sometimes you just have trouble sleeping, but I could sleep for 12 hours and I still feel like it wouldn't be enough, so I'm just tired. But it's all in a good spot, though.
Yeah, Max Scherzer always said, pitching downhill is stressful on your body.
Yeah.
It takes, as effortless as that looked yesterday, it takes it out of you.
Yeah, that's not effortless, trust me. Yeah, it's not. That's about like max effort. That's kind of, you go until the gas tank's on E, So, but it was good. It was a good day.
The night after you start, that night, how do you go to sleep? Do you even have to turn anything on a screen, or do you just crash?
Believe it or not, it's hard to fall asleep. I think just the adrenaline that you've kind of had running through you for 2 hours or whatever. I probably drink a little too much caffeine, so that kind of is part of it too. But yeah, it's kind of hard to wind down a little bit. It'll take me a little bit longer. I'm usually a great sleeper, right after games. Once I get home, say hi to my wife, whatever, within 15 minutes I'll be out. I'm just like, it's time to go to bed. But days after I pitch, I put a show on that I don't really care to watch, but just have some noise going, and then try and fall asleep as best you can. The night-to-day games are the ones that are really tough. When you play and then you go to, you get home at 11, you can't fall asleep, and then you got to wake back up at, 6 hours after, and you just don't sleep great either for whatever reason. I don't know.
What
It's just
shows?
day after.
What's your background noise show that you watch?
Family Guy.
Nice.
That's my show. Yeah.
You don't do a Peter Griffin impersonation, do you, by chance?
No, but that show is actually, if you watch it from start to finish, it's actually so funny.
Yeah, that's one of my son's favorite shows.
But you have to pay attention. Don't you have to pay attention?
Yeah,
a little bit.
But I've watched it start to finish probably 3 times. So then I just throw on the episodes, and I'm not really trying to pay attention. I'm just having the noise go, and then I roll over the other way and fall asleep. So
love it.
Yeah.
And how you feel the next day might depend on how you pitched the previous day.
Yeah, I'd say the tougher the outing, the less sleep you get. I would say that, generally speaking.
You replaying pitches in your head, or
just like if you want something back, if you felt like you didn't do a great job competing, whatever it is, those ones kind of eat at you a little bit more than probably the good ones do. But even after a good one, it's hard to fall asleep. So yeah. I don't really know. Sometimes after bad ones, though, I'm like, hey, forget about it, just go to sleep, and I'll go to sleep faster. So I don't know how it works.
Dan, did Tarik Skubal just say that there are times where he feels like he didn't do a great job competing?
That was the word that jumped out to me.
You'd be surprised. You'd be surprised.
You're as fierce a competitor as anybody sees with this team and a lot of other teams.
Well, I appreciate that, but I think at times that you'll let negative thoughts kind of creep in, or you'll let certain things that happen in a game that you don't have control of impact what you're thinking on the mound. And that's what I'm saying when I'm not competing, is I'm letting outside factors dictate what I'm doing instead of just playing baseball the way that I know how to play.
Against the Rangers the other day? Is that what you're referring to?
What happened? What'd I do?
No, that was the outing where I think maybe you felt like you could have gone another inning had some things out of your control, ball or strike.
Let's it was Nestor Seja. You were shooting them daggers.
Twins? Is that the outing we're talking about? The Twins
was
one?
Was it
Twins outing?
Okay,
yeah.
I actually apologized to the umpire yesterday. I was a little fired up that outing. But I think that's competing, and he was like, hey, no big deal. You're a competitor. I expect you to kind of act like that. And I was just like, I didn't expect him to say that, first off. But, that's, I don't like that side of me coming out on the mound. But sometimes it happens, and that's what I'm talking about, is that'll take away from who I am on the mound. It's ball or strike, shouldn't matter. Let's go execute the next pitch.
Yeah.
You know, let's go execute the next pitch. And if I can do that for 100 throws or whatever, however many pitches I throw, that's kind of how I judge my outings anyways. You know, box scores are cool, stat lines are cool, but if I can be locked in pitch by pitch, that's when I think I'm at my best, and I think that's when everyone's at their best. It doesn't matter error here, blooper here, whatever. If you can just lock back in on competing and executing the next pitch once it comes through, you know, the pitch com thing, I think that's when I'm at my best. So that's what I think is competing, is just being locked in pitch by pitch. And I can sit here and say it, and you're like, oh, that makes so much sense. It's so easy to do, right? But it's not.
But it's not.
I promise it's the hardest thing to do in the game.
Because if you're a competitor and you got that fire, it's balance. Emotion's important in this game.
Yeah.
But it's a matter of learning to challenge it.
No, for sure.
Challenge it.
Yeah, and I'm not saying don't be be emotionless, you know, like Kyle Hendricks. You would never know if that guy's pitching in a big situation. That's just how he is. That's how he competes, right? That's not how I compete. So just stay within myself and just get back to my plan, which is attacking pitch by pitch, and that's all I really can control at the end of the day.
And you come, I'm guessing, a long way in that regard in the last couple of years, just in terms of flushing that last pitch.
Yeah, you should have seen my brain in 2020. It was not like that.
What do you remember about coming up and how different?
I don't think you want to know those thoughts.
We got time. Give us the brain map. Like, what were the bad thoughts then compared to now? Just to compartmentalize.
It's just like it's like wholesome, right? It's like you're just not confident. You don't know what's going on. You don't know how your stuff plays. It's just like you're walking on eggshells all the time because you're like trying to fit in with the guys. It's COVID. You can't really be around each other. Everyone has a mask on. You don't even know their facial expression because everyone's kind of wearing that. So you don't really know anyone. And then also, I didn't know anyone. You know, I knew Casey and Paredes, and that was like really it. I hadn't played with any of those guys. So I'm trying to get to know 24 other guys that are big leaguers. You know, Miguel Cabrera's in my clubhouse. I'm like starstruck every time I see that guy. And I'm just like trying to get to know guys while also get my feet underneath myself. And it's like every game you'd look up in the fourth inning and you're like, this is the big leagues, you know, and it happened every day, you know, every day. And it still happens every once in a while. Like you go, you know, big moment happens and it's like, this is professional baseball. This is what you dream about, you know, as a kid. But it was every day then. And I think that just kind of speaks to the, you know, youth, I guess. Like I just didn't know. I didn't know, right? And yeah, you're just trying to figure it all out at the same time. And then, yeah, that season was kind of a mess for me.
And you're coming up during COVID.
Yeah.
The strangest season
and there's no
we'll
fans
ever
in the
see.
stands. That season kind of wasn't great, you know, at all.
Yeah.
So, you know, for me personally, how I pitched, how I felt I performed, but also just like you dream of playing in front of fans, you dream of making your debut in front of family and like having them there at the game, and none of that was able to happen.
Yeah.
You know, you were on the other side of calling a Tim Anderson homer and then another homer, and I'm like, and that's all on SportsCenter. It's all I'm watching that night, and I'm like, dang. But yeah, that was, you know, that wasn't a whatever.
Sorry, dude.
Yeah, it's okay. There's no hard feelings or nothing.
So 35 home runs in a year.
It's a lot.
To like an extremely confident human being. Not overnight, but pretty quickly. How did you deal with all of the balls flying? You know, I don't mean to be glib, but like there's a lot of it. And you joked with me about it in spring training, about how many I called from the other side. How'd you get there?
Yeah, I think, well, one, I think it took a little bit of time to understand, like, I love my fastball. I still love my fastball, but guys hit fastballs in 2-0 counts right down the middle. You know, I just kept challenging guys, and I love that about myself. I'm going to keep doing that, but maybe let's be a little bit smart. Challenge a guy with a slider. You know, it doesn't always have to be a fastball that you challenge a guy with. So I had to learn that kind of the hard way, and no matter what Fett said or AJ said, I was thinking I was a little too stubborn to understand what was going on. But also, like, a lot of the game's best pitchers give up the most homers, you know. I mean, Garrett Cole gave up however many, and he's Garrett Cole. Justin Verlander's done it, you know, a ton. He's led the league in homers, and he's one of the best, you know, pitchers in the big leagues. So I think understanding that, too, also helps. Is like, hey, you got good stuff. Solo homers don't beat you. You know, just challenge guys with nobody on and see how far they can hit it in counts that, you know, you probably haven't set yourself up to have success in. So yeah, I think just kind of understanding both those things, you know, played a role in and not letting that kind of eat you up mentally.
Was there a particular moment where you threw a fastball that was one of your best fastballs and some guy hit it hard and you're like, oh.
Salvador Perez. And
of course.
Yeah, Salvador
Was that
Perez.
the start in
was
Kansas
98
City?
up and in. No, it was at home.
Oh,
and it
okay.
went almost off the scoreboard, and I was like, oh my goodness. And he was late, and I was like, okay, if I just get this one up and in, and it was up and in, and he pulled it like 400 feet, and I go, what just happened? You know, you're like, that shouldn't have happened. But yeah, that's when it's like, hey, these guys can hit fastballs, and they make adjustments, and
Yeah.
they're all professional hitters for a reason, you know, and they're in the big leagues too, as much as I am. So
I want to pull the video now and look at your face after that home run.
I don't know what I said. Hopefully it's not on me. But
I went back and watched some Seattle U video
yeah.
last night.
Oh yeah.
I'd like to begin with the hair.
Uh-huh.
What in the world
Did you
would
like
you
it?
call that?
Did you like it?
I like it, but
Yeah.
I don't know what to call it.
That's called the flow. I mean, I think everyone that has hair it's called the flow, right? But yeah, I think I was probably heavily influenced by our upperclassmen my freshman year. They all had longer hair. Part of that, and then also too, like, I didn't know where to get my hair cut probably my whole freshman year. It's like, I'm in a new city. I don't know how this works. My brother's not here to cut my hair, so I'm like, I'll just let it grow, I guess. And then
He did before?
Yeah. My brother or my dad, I think. I don't know when I went to a barber ever. I could be totally wrong, but I don't remember going to one growing up. But yeah, so I think I just kind of let it grow, and then you wear a hat most of the time so you can kind of get through the awkward phase, and then just let it grow out.
The hat wasn't helping for the most part, right? There was an exit strategy out of the hat for that hair.
Yeah. I think once it got long enough, I really enjoyed it. I was also throwing well as a freshman, like kind of started off a little bit rougher and started pitching better as the season went on. So I was like, I think it's my hair. You know? I was very superstitious then too. You know, eat the same thing, wear the same clothes, put on the socks the right way. You know, and
What'd you eat?
I don't remember. Maybe a bagel, cream cheese. I don't know. I don't really remember.
The breakfast of baseball champions.
Yeah, college baseball. That's what it is. In a hotel, you know, hotel breakfast, wherever we're staying, bagel, cream cheese, whatever it was. But yeah, I was very superstitious that year, and I thought my hair was probably
Part of it.
part of why I was good. So
Baseball superstitions still are a rather large part of the everyday clubhouse, it seems.
Yeah, no, they
Do you
are.
have 'em?
I try to not.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of a little unhealthy, kind of with your brain, you know, trying to tell yourself to. I have a routine. I'm very routine oriented. I'm not saying I don't do the same thing a lot. I, in fact, have, you know, I do a very similar routine every single day to get my body, you know, ready to go. But I think there's a difference between routine and superstition.
Yeah.
You know, it's not
No
like
question.
I don't have to do it to then be good that day. It's just I do it because I'm preparing my body.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I look at it.
You can plan for everything, right? And we can get into your routine, but then you have a start like the most recent one as we tape this with Kansas City, where they're sitting soft early.
Yeah.
And you and Jake Rogers seem to adjust very quickly on the fly. Is that a conversation? How does that adjustment happen as you go fastball heavy later on in an inning and an outing?
Yeah, I think Raj has a great feel back there. I think he does a great job, you know, understanding swings, what's going on, and then you don't even need to have the conversation once he starts, the pitch calling changes. You know, it's like, I think when things start working, it's like let them dictate, you know, when they're not going to work, you know. So I think, I think Raj has a great feel with that. And then, you know, there doesn't really even need to be a conversation until maybe, you know, something happens that I don't like, or I wasn't understanding why this pitch was called, and I'll ask him and he'll tell me, and I'm like, yeah, sure, whatever, that's cool with me, you know. But yeah, I think he's great back there. You know, Carson, same way. Our catchers all the way, and our whole organization, I think, are great, you know, behind the plate. You know, Dingler, I threw to him in spring training. He was great too. So it's like they have good feel. I don't know who's doing that, you know, in our organization, but they do a great job too. So I don't know who's kind of coaching them up, but yeah, they got great feel back there.
You're an incredible strike thrower, really one of the rare combinations of an upper 90s fastball with a walk rate that's below 2 per 9. Your 75% first pitch strike's ridiculous. But I liked what you said the other day after 2 starts ago. You talked about how you love throwing to Jake because he makes every pitch look like a strike.
Yeah.
and how much that plays into what you're doing out there, filling up the strike zone. And as AJ and Scott Harris like to talk about, putting the pressure on that guy in the batter's box right from the start.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they've preached first pitch strikes since day one of spring training. I think it was literally in our day one of pitchers, whatever the first pitcher meeting was, it was like first pitch strikes dictate a lot of success in this league. And they're right. First off, it is right. The numbers definitely support it. Guys do not hit good in 0-1 counts. They do not hit good in 0-2 counts. You give yourself a ton of room to miss. In 0-2 counts, I did it yesterday. Where I threw an 0-2 changeup right down the middle, and it's like, do I want to do that? No, but it's 0-2, so the hitter is already uncomfortable, and they're trying to defend pitches. It's like, how many 2-0? If I throw a 2-0 changeup, is that is the hitter might have a little bit more confidence, and they might put a better swing on this pitch to where it's driven somewhere instead of a swing and miss. So I think that count leverage is everything. I think when you get ahead, first pitch strikes, 0-1, 0-2, guys are uncomfortable. And then the next time, they start seeing that you're throwing strikes, then they start swinging a lot more. And then that's when you can kind of start,
when you get them in
the
swing
game
mode, that's when you know
you can start. That's when you start pitching. You start like understanding, okay, this guy wants to swing here. How am I going to slow him down? Whether that be with, big curveball backdoor to where it's like a change of pace pitch, or if they're going to swing, do I just throw it up and in off and let them, kind of break their bat or foul it off, or, whatever. It just gives you so many more options when you're throwing strikes. And I think that, a lot of not problems, but, when you get in trouble, it's almost always kind of self-inflicted. Like, what counts was it thrown in? Did you get ahead? Did you walk a guy? In the 7th inning, I walk a guy with 2 outs, and that's never what you want to do, because those guys seem to always come around and score. And then all of a sudden, it's walk, knock, and now the pressure's on me instead of the pressure being on the hitter. So, I think that all kind of plays into it. That was probably long-winded, but
no, but it's always fascinated me. I mean, we've been talking baseball for forever about the importance of first pitch strikes, but how do you get pitchers to do it?
Yeah, it's so simple. That's probably part of the challenge, right? Is like just buying in that, like, I understand guys are probably going to swing off me first pitch a lot more than what their numbers say. So it's like, all right, from pitch one, I need to challenge this. I'm going to challenge this guy over the plate and see what he can do. And when he does what he can do, then you kind of go away from just challenging guys over the heart of the plate. But until that happens, I'm very confident with, like, especially with the visuals Raj gives me and kind of sets up. I'm very confident on where I need to start this pitch to end it up there. And do I do that every time? No. I'm probably not even, I probably don't even do it 20% of the time. But I'm bought in, like I'm doing it 100% of the time. So I think that matters.
I wonder how you don't give yourself false signals, because you just said, if one guy swings at you first pitch, makes contact, there's this tendency to be like, well, maybe I should adjust my game plan, when maybe the best thing you can do for the next guy who's a different human being is to challenge him first pitch as well. Yeah. So how do you not give yourself false signals?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to string together a lot of hits in a row, right? Just like, it's hard to do that. It's hard to score that way. I feel like a lot of offense is like bloop blast, there's 2 runs, or walk, bloop blast, 3-run bomb. That it's hard to have 4 hits in a row and score 3 runs. It's just hard. I think it's hard to hit, and you got to understand that too. So as a pitcher, you already know you have the advantage. I think I'm always going to go compete and think I'm better than. I just have confidence in myself that I think I'm going to get everybody out. But also just like understanding situations too. I think that's, huge. Base open, who's on deck. You can pitch around guys to get the better matchup for you if you need to get there. But yeah, I don't know if I answered your question, but that's what I'm.
No, that makes sense. And feeling like you're better than everybody is difficult, I would imagine, to maintain. And we talked about some of the difficulties early in your career. How much of that is being the youngest brother?
Yeah. I mean, growing up, my older brother, Tyler, we'd have, the little basketball hoop outside, and he would give me a 10-0 lead with the ball. All I needed to score was 1, and he would beat me 11-10. Because we would play. My dad had the rule my whole life.
How many years older was he?
3 years older than me.
And he did not take it easy on you.
Yeah, it happened until I could beat him. And then he's like, no, it's 0-0 now. I was like, all right, cool. But
Your dad had a rule one?
my dad had a rule that, you know, when you're playing one-on-one, if you score on offense, you get the ball back. So on defense, you have to get a stop.
Make it, take it.
Make it, take it, right? So my brother would make it, you know, he would stop me once defensively and make it, take it 11 straight points. And he would, you know, bully me around. I was smaller. He probably felt great about it, you know, and I would probably cry and run to my dad and tell me it wasn't fair. And my dad would be like, no, that's fair. That's how you play basketball. I was like, no, it's not. He just, I got, you know, I'm fouling him every play and I can't even stop him because he's bigger than me. But yeah, I think that, I think that kind of plays into it. So of course, naturally, I have a younger brother. I made sure to do that to him. You know, he's 5 years younger than me. So
Pass it on.
I put the whooping on him
Pass it
then,
on.
you know, so I was like, there's none of that. You know, I'll give you we'd played a 21. I said, okay, I'll give you a 20-0 lead and I'm going to beat you. You know, that's how confident in myself I am.
See, that's a vicious cycle.
Yeah. And I feel bad he didn't have the younger brother to do that back to. So it stopped with him. He had to grow up with that, you know.
Did he end up ever beating you?
No, he still to this day never will.
Dude,
I hope he listens and hears that.
you know what it did for you to be able to beat your older brother.
Yeah, it was a huge confidence boost.
And you never did that for him.
Well, you got to do it. Nothing
You can't
in life
give it
is
to
just
him, right?
given
You
to
can't
you,
give it to
right?
him.
You got to earn everything. You don't just get handed out a win. No way. Especially if you're my brother. No way.
How did you attack your older brother? Like when you were trying to play offense, what did you do?
So he was so much bigger than me. I had to like shoot everything like wide left or wide right.
Running jump hook.
Yeah, like underneath, like try to do everything, right? Like, you know, pump fake, whatever it was, like get him in the air. And then by the time I probably wasn't the fastest guy. He was probably much faster than me too. And then like, you know, you're just shooting stuff high off the backboard with a spin, trying to get it to kind of spin back in, and it never worked. You know, I don't know how many shots I even got off too. I think he blocked almost everything. So I bet he was nervous for the one shot I did get off and I would win. But yeah, I don't know.
First time you won, was it first? It had to be first shot then, probably.
Well, once I turned like 16 or 17, he was in college. And then we just played 0-0 and just played.
Yeah.
And I won. And I made sure to let him know about it. Like, hey, that was the first time I beat you, and I hope that feels good. Because he went and played college basketball. He was a good player.
He did?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Where did he play?
Dubuque, Iowa.
Okay, Iowa.
Yeah.
I think it's a D2. But yeah, it's that was actually my goal in high school. Side note, that was my goal, was to go play college basketball with him. Just, you know, you kind of idolize your older brother. You know, he taught me how to work, all that stuff. I was like, I'm gonna go play college basketball with you. And then ended up getting better at baseball, and that kind of went that route. But
When did the paths diverge?
when I started going to play baseball,
Yeah.
probably not until my junior year of high school. I always played. You know, I played, and I always enjoyed playing, but my dad was a basketball coach. I kind of grew up in a gym. I wanted to go play college basketball, and you know, thankfully I didn't. But yeah, it was that was always kind of what I wanted to do. And then my junior year, I started getting, you know, serious recruitment to go play baseball. Started throwing harder, all that stuff, and that's kind of why I went up and played baseball.
Your origin story really never ceases to amaze me. I know you've told it a few times, but the fact that you discovered in some tournament in Peoria, Arizona, by a guy who's trying to rebuild a program that had actually gone defunct for a couple of decades up in Seattle, it never ceases to amaze me. But you didn't want to go, right, to Seattle.
No.
But you weren't really getting a lot of D1 offers, right?
That was my only one.
That was your only one.
Yeah.
But at some point, you had to call. Elliot Kribbe was the pitching coach, right? Who was looking at you and wanted you to come.
Yeah.
You had to make that call. Your dad's like, you got to make that call.
Yeah. So I had one outing on like a Wednesday, right? I think it was a Wednesday, and shortstop makes an outstanding play. His last name was Bull, I think. Bull makes an outstanding play, dives up the middle, throws the guy out at first. I'm pumped up because he's pumped up. This is a big showcase. I hit like 92 that inning. First time ever, I think, throwing harder than 86, right? And then, you know, the scouts start to, you know, word gets around, and then all of a sudden there's radar guns, you know, for the next inning. And I'm throwing.
Noticeably in the next inning.
Yeah. Next inning, I go back out, and there's a bunch of radar guns out. And I'm like top of the world, right? I'm like, yeah, I'm getting recruited by all these. There's professional teams here. I'm like, this is it. This is my opportunity. Then my next scheduled game to pitch is Saturday. Another like 1 inning or 2 inning outing. Friday night, I play a football game because we had a football game that right then, play a football game. I come out and I'm throwing like 82. And all the radar guns go down and leave. And I'm like, dang. And I have all these, they hand you your little business cards, right? And I have business cards and I have them in my pocket. And I was like, dang, they all left after the first inning. Like, usually they stayed for the second inning, right? And, you're naive. You don't really understand what's going on. And I'm calling these schools and, they're not really, there's nothing really there, right? And then he's like, you need to call that school. I'm like, Dad, I'm not going to that school. He's like, why? I was like, I'd rather just stay here and go to Yavapai Community College, which is a JUCO, pretty good JUCO.
Yeah. Good baseball program.
Yeah, baseball program. Like their pitching coach has been there for 40 years, whatever it was. I was like, I'd rather just go to Yavapai. My wife is going to Yavapai, so I was like, yeah. She's my girlfriend at the time, so I was like, yeah, I can just go to school there. My dad's like, no, you need to call that person. Called him. Within a week, I'm committed, and I'm like, yeah, I guess I'm going to Seattle U. So yeah, that's that story. It's pretty cool.
It seemed like it was the perfect, against all odds you end up in Seattle, but it does seem like it was the perfect program, the perfect coaching for you at that time in your development. You were 17 years old?
Yeah, for sure. That whole coaching staff, Donnie Harrell's still there, Elliot Kribbe, Billy Boyer is with us. He was there when I was there. Mike Nato, the whole Fozzie, that whole coaching staff was great, and the team was great. And then getting me out of my comfort zone and getting me up to Seattle.
Not a small thing.
Yeah, experiencing something that I've never experienced. I remember like the first day I got there, I was in my dorm room like shell-shocked. I'm crying, calling my mom crying, like I need to come home, because I don't understand what's going on. But it was the perfect thing for me was, hey, get out of your comfort zone and go do something that you're not comfortable with. And you learn a ton about yourself. And then obviously the guys that we had, great teammates, still stay in touch with a lot of them, and that's what it's about, right?
Yeah,
you build that brother camaraderie, and then once you get to know guys and you get comfortable, and that's when special things happen. And we were also a really good team too. It was fun to play there. We won a lot, so it was fun.
There's a YouTube video about the Seattle U Athletics Hall of Fame where Donnie is in it, and he's talking about you. And he says, the fierce competitor, but I also wish people would see that he is still the goofy 8-year-old that I know.
Yeah, he watched me grow up for sure. I've had some special conversations with him, in his office and stuff, and he helped me grow up for sure. So it was he probably has a very unique perspective of me.
Where's the goofy 8-year-old in the clubhouse? Like we only see like laser eyes. I'm mad that on the black wasn't a strike. Where's the goofy come out?
I typically save that for when there's none of these cameras or microphones.
Well, this is we got a plant for you. We upgraded just for you, so give us a little.
No, yeah, I usually try to when in the clubhouse when it's just the guys, media day, the media's out of there. That's when you kind of will. I think that's when you'll see everyone's true personality.
Yeah, when it's not open for that 1 hour for the media before the game.
You're gonna settle for that?
Yeah. But
what is the goofy? What's the goofiest thing you normally like
behind closed doors? I thought you were going to get that.
It doesn't have to be ridiculous. But like, what would your wife say is the goofiest thing about you?
I don't know, man. I don't know. Goofiest thing about me? I don't know. That'd be a good question for her. I'm sure she'd have an answer.
Well, here she is. We've brought her here today.
I'm sure she'd have a great answer.
I do think it's interesting, though, like how you can turn that off. That's kind of what I was driving at, is like you have this lovable, super likable, your teammates at Seattle clearly love you from everything that I've heard, and your teammates here with the Tigers love you for your competitiveness. But you also have a switch where you can just be like fun-loving, ridiculous. How do you do that in your brain?
I think this game's, hard enough. And if you are like completely locked in all the time, it's hard, mentally it's hard to do that. Right. So I think that there needs to be some fun. It's still a game. That's something that I always like admired of Miggy, was he just loved coming to the field and having fun every single day. It didn't matter. And he was very public about it. It didn't matter who was, he was always laughing, having fun, whether it be at first base, whatever, second base, wherever he was on the field, he was having fun. And I was like, yeah, I think I need to have more fun. I need to stop, I'm serious about my job and I care. But I think you need to enjoy it too. you know. So I think that's kind of where that comes from, is like, you know, when I'm out on the mound, I'm competing, right? But in between innings, you know, I'll talk and laugh and, you know, mess with somebody or, you know, whatever it is. So yeah, it's just, I think it's hard for me to just stay like that without being like mentally exhausted by the time the game even starts.
Absolutely.
You know, so I try to enjoy it, keep it light, make fun of, you know, make fun of people. They make fun of me. I think that's fun too. I think that's also what happens when you grow up with 4 other brothers in the house and, you know, you're constantly getting messed with. I think that's like what I think is fun too. So I don't know.
How did they mess with you?
I mean, any type of physical fight I lost, so I think they enjoyed that. So I didn't like it, but I think they did. You know, that's like the whole older brother treatment.
You got to sharpen the wit up, right?
Yeah, they were the, you know, when my parents weren't, you know, say my parents had to go to the grocery store, they were in charge. So like I was doing the dishes, I was doing all the stuff around the house. They would be like supervisor, and it's like that's part of happens.
And they just like sat and watched TV while you're doing the dishes?
Yeah, make me bring them water and stuff. Yeah. I'm sure they have a different perspective of it, but that's my perspective.
They might not, actually. They might remember it exactly like that.
I bet they don't. I bet if you ask them, they don't. But that's mine, so I'm going to stay true to it.
It's so relatable, right? Like you're like you're a crazy, intense competitor who gets into pitch design with Chris Fetter, and like there was just this long story about your changeup of designing pitches, but you started bringing water to your brothers because they told you to.
Yeah, because I had no other option, because they were the, you know, parent of the house. So what else was I supposed to do?
I love it.
There are so many, literally billions of data points, right? The numbers that are out there, and Chris Fetter has helped you learn about how the body moves, and then Robin Lund comes in from University of Iowa and really helps. I mean, you guys are telling me about the ground forces and how he's taught you how that can actually take pressure off your arm and increase velocity. Casey Mize got stronger because of that. But you guys are kind of giving me a little bit tutorial this spring about how you use the technology. And every pitcher uses it a little bit differently. But you really do, I mean, whether it's throwing a bullpen and seeing what the TrackMag numbers are telling you so you can adjust. But you also said, I mean, they showed on the scoreboard every single pitch, horizontal, vertical, and a whole bunch of other numbers. You'll actually look at that, won't you, to help you right away make sure that you're where you want to be.
Yeah, for sure. You know, I use it as a bullpen. You know, in my bullpens, it's hard because you're not moving at the same speed, so it's hard to like look at movement profiles a lot. But I think once you get used to what your movement profiles are in bullpens, that's what I kind of chase more than mine in the game. And then mounds, you know, different mounds kind of impact that stuff too. But yeah, I think in game, you know, I'm looking at what my stuff's doing, so that way I can make adjustments within inning without having to go and look at the iPad. And then obviously I want to know velocities, see what I'm working with that day. If I let one go, what's that, you know, just to see what I need to throw, you know, or how it's coming out of my hand. What cue I might need to get back to. Say my curveball's a little more sweepy today. Okay, what cue do I need to get back to get it to go, you know, up and down, you know, straight. So just different stuff like that. You know, slider too, like if it's too vertical, trying to turn it into a cutter, okay, to me, I need to get into the front of the baseball a little bit more. So just like emphasize that, because you know, as much as I'd love to say I feel the same exact way every outing, it's just not the nature of the game, right? So you kind of you're going to pitch with what you got, but if you might, like some days I don't need to think about it at all, my slider's great. Other days maybe I need to think about it a little bit more and, you know, get it back to the shape that I like.
Jason mentioned the story from David Adler about your changeup. That feels like, with great detail on that story, but you put a lot of work into that. It almost feels like, if not career changing, it's now turned you into that ground ball guy who doesn't give up many home runs while maintaining low walks, high strikeouts. Could you just describe how important that pitch has been for you?
Well, I don't want to jinx it. I don't want to.
You got 4 days. You just
5, I think. I have an extra day.
Oh, you got it.
We have an off day now. I don't want to jinx it, but yeah, I think it just gave me another. I mean, I faced a lot of righties, right? So it's just giving me another weapon to kind of go away, so that way when I want to
go face nothing but righties sometimes, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah. And then the lefties that you do face are, you know, typically premier bats, right? Like, you know, the best lefties in the game. So, you know, I face a ton of righties, so it just gives me another weapon to kind of get the ball away from them, make the plate look a little bit wider than, you know, it is, and then change some eye levels. And I think it makes my fastball better too. So, yeah, Yeah, and it's a pitch that I've been relatively well at throwing it in the strike zone too. I don't want to see. I don't want to. Where's the wood at?
You said you're not superstitious.
Yeah, but
that doesn't mean
this
you don't
stuff
believe in
kinda
jinx.
Just a little bit, you know. But yeah, it gives you another pitch that you're confident in throwing over the plate, and makes, you know, takes 4 pitches where it's just be, you know, heater, spin, bigger spin, to now it's like heater, different heater, spin, bigger spin, and then something going away from them. So it's just kind of gives you another weapon in that aspect.
If your slider, just take us through as detailed as you want. You said, say my slider gets a little vertical.
Yeah.
How do you tweak that? Like for people at home who are like, man, how does he take a little vertical out of it? How do you go about that?
Yeah, so I think about like pulling this part of my middle finger down a little bit more. So some people, that's like curveball cue, right? That's a curveball cue for them. For me, it helps me get my slider to where it'll kill a little bit more vert, because it's actually not, in fact, going down. It's just getting the axis down a little bit, and it's going to cause the ball to do what I want to do. So it's not, my cue is not exactly what I'm doing. It's just the cue that works for me. So that's the simplest way I could answer that.
When did you get so in tune with all the movements of your body?
Probably when I got hurt. You know, injuries suck, right? And I had Tommy John in college. I hadn't been hurt since Tommy John, so I got hurt again, and it's like, all right, let's readdress what's going on, because I felt like I was throwing the ball pretty well, recovering well, and then like, boom, my season's over. I'm now going to miss, you know, at the time, you're going to miss potentially 11 months, but you also don't know. Flexor surgery is a little bit different than Tommy John in terms of kind of the amount of guys that are having it. So I think I just kind of bought back into my body, like, okay, let's fix this. Let's, you know, address this. And then obviously with the addition of Robin Lund with Fett and Juan Nieves, our pitching department, you know, was great in that aspect too. And then, you know, I actually did a ton of work with Bach, you know, our AAA pitching coach. So, I mean, from top down, you know, organizationally, I think our pitching department is great. So they kind of bought in. They restructured a throwing program. So obviously the training staff had a say in it. You know, Duncan, our PT, they were all kind of, and I had a say in it too. You know, we sat down and discussed what we want to do, what my plyo care, you know, throwing program is, what my weight, you know, Shane Wallen, Drew, those guys in the strength department too, is kind of like everyone got together and was like, hey, let's get you a plan that works for you.
Yeah.
You know, and we want your input. So they sent me home and let me fill out a sheet, you know, every 5th day sheet, right? And then they had some input, and they're like, hey, we like this, we don't like this. We like this, we don't like this. Why do you like this? And then I have a reason for it. So I have a reason for what I'm doing. So I think that speaks about the organization as a whole too, right? It's like everyone was bought in on getting the guy back, and also not just getting him back, but let's make this guy the best version of himself and make him feel good every 5th day. So there were some tweaks in that, and tweaks in my routine, and then I just started feeling really good every 5th day, and I think that's what matters. You know, you can kind of monitor your load in between starts depending on how you feel, travel, hotels, whatever it is, right? You can kind of dictate what you're going to do. It's not like just running yourself into the ground just because you have to stay to your routine. You can change it based on, you know, how you feel or how stressful the last game was. All that type of stuff kind of plays into it. But yeah, I think as an organization, it was pretty special, you know, for me personally, that they sat me down, and we had, you know, 30-minute conversations a lot about what's going on, where the progression is headed. And then obviously rehabbing here last year too was huge, just like getting me around the team. But yeah, I think that's kind of when you know, not that I didn't have a routine. It's just like now it's like, this is what I know works for me. I threw the ball really well last year. I felt good, and I think that's what matters more than the result. It's like if I'm feeling good, I can work on some things and work through some things, whether the results are good or bad. You know, I can continue to work on things. When you're not feeling good, it's hard because you don't want to overdo things, you know. So yeah, that's probably a long-winded answer, but I think it's important to give credit to everyone that kind of was involved in that situation, which is honestly our entire organization. So that's
it's incredible how much the coordination, the hard work, and now we're getting to see the results. We got to tell you, we're enjoying the heck out of calling your games right now, because
I appreciate it.
This is really fun to watch.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, it's fun from this side. I felt awful because the first spring training game, you pitched well, and then we had a lot going on in the booth, and I said you gave up a homer. And you
I
didn't.
did hear that. I
You
did hear that. I did hear that.
Old
And
habits
we had
die
a
hard,
conversation.
bro.
We had a conversation in the spring. I said, hey, no more of those.
Old habits die hard. I do want to know what happens on your day that you're starting. Truly, this is very important. If you
Yeah.
don't finish the crossword puzzle,
It'll never happen. That'll never happen before I pitch.
because I have it'll never happen.
No, I will always finish it.
So-
Or I'll have Jake help me if I can't.
Oh, Raj is your lifeline.
Yeah. He's really good at them. And
Really?
if I'm struggling and he can see me struggling, he'll come over and start, changing up the clues.
Because
to
he
where I
knows
can
you've got to
the
get
word.
it done.
I think so.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe that is a superstition. Maybe that is the one. I
Yeah,
have
we're
to finish a
building this.
crossword.
I saw, I walked behind you and we were talking like there was a northeast corner or whatever. And I left you and I didn't feel great about leaving you with empty crossword puzzle because you had to start that day.
No, Raj will always make sure I get it done. And then I have the app downloaded on my phone. If he's busy, I can look up some answers, which is cheating, but it's okay. I got to get it done.
You got to get it done.
You're a
Yeah.
major league pitcher. You have things to do.
Yeah, I have to start a little bit of a routine. I had to.
Who is the most ridiculous person in the bullpen? You can identify and define ridiculous however you care to.
Where do I start? I mean, there's 8 of them, and they're all, thankfully we have a bunker to throw them in, but I'd say Will Vest is probably, he's the most ridiculous reliever.
Yeah.
The quiet ones, always the ones that.
Yeah, he's not quiet.
He's
let
not
me
quiet
tell you.
when the
he's not
clubhouse
quiet.
doors are closed.
He's not quiet.
You know how you talked about adjusting to things on the mound? Dan has been giving me the rap signal for 3 minutes, and I did not realize that I had the rap signal.
Oh, really?
So I just went and asked that question again, and I just blew through a stop sign. So this is how things go. This is live radio. The rap signal is he's got to go,
Oh, okay.
but I missed it.
But
So I
we-
just
all
blew
good.
through the
we
stop
appreciate
sign.
we
All good.
appreciate your time.
Joey Cora over here was trying to stop me, and I ran through it.
That's all right. It happens.
We preach aggressiveness, so
This has been an absolute pleasure. Thank
Yeah,
you for the
thank you.
time.
Thank you,
you.
man. Really appreciate it.
do I have to nominate a person now?
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's right.
That's right. That's gonna
You
be.
heard about that?
Well, AJ did it. I watched that part.
Okay. So yeah, who should we
Wait, you were advanced scouting us?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was.
give us?
got my
Top
eyes
top two,
everywhere.
top 2 or 3, or should he? Does he have
Do
to
you guys
pick
have
one?
Couple
someone
of
in mind? Like you want to do someone next?
Just throw out a couple, and we'll see.
I'll
where we go.
nominate Jake
Okay.
if he wants to do it. Raj, get him up here. Who else would be fun here?
You're going through the Rolodex.
Yeah, I'm going through everybody right now. Yeah, I like Jake. I like Jake being the next guy.
All right.
What should we ask him?
He's got a cool story. He's got a cool, kind of coming up story. He's
Yeah.
got a good,
Yeah.
story of his
Absolutely
career and
does.
stuff. So, yeah, Raj.
All right. I like it. Tarik, thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Tarik Skubal. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.